Well, hello, Renee. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Is that a Christmas tree I see over your shoulder?
That is a Christmas tree, and I am on the road. And believe it or not, we are talking about the holidays today, correct?
We are. We're talking about self-care for the holidays. We are.
You know what's 80 miles away from me right now if I drove 80 miles directly north?
No, what's
I
there?
w I would find myself in Santa Claus, Indiana. Have you ever
What?
been to Santa Claus, Indiana?
I don't think I have, and I'm very bummed about this because I think that would be amazing.
I actually took my wife to Santa Claus, Indiana, because it was just off the exit, and I didn't tell her we were taking a detour when we went up to another conference, the Rural Health Conference in Indiana over the summer. And it was the most amazing 365 days a year snow festival that you've ever been to because they have
That
embraced
is
the
my
name of
kind
their
of thing.
town. They have embraced the name of their town. And so when you send a letter to Santa, many times it will go to Santa Claus, Indiana.
Mm. Well, for everybody listening, I was supposed to be in Bowling Green where I could go to Santa Claus, Indiana, but no,
Yeah,
I chose self-care. I have
you
had this
did.
horrendous cough for 6 weeks. 6 weeks, people. And it was everything I could do to just not have to be on an airplane one more time and breathe in more germs because I need to take care of myself because I cannot continue to be sick. So I had to pass, which is why, unfortunately, I am not in Bowling Green by this Christmas tree,
You
which hurts my heart.
you're gonna miss the Corvette Museum though.
Oh, that does not hurt my heart. Can't say that that hurts my heart. But I can say that I really wanted to go to Nashville. I've been in Nashville
I
around the
know.
holidays multiple times, but I've never got to go to the Gaylord. And it's all decorated out, and then you can walk through it for free and all this. But the
Yep.
weather's been bad when I've been there. And I told Brent I wanted to go, and Christmas lights for my birthday is always a thing. And so I
So
had a
just so you know, we
plan,
did we
but
didn't drive by on the way from the airport and it didn't look beautiful. So just
Well,
remember
that's
that.
good. Thank you for saying that because that makes me feel better. But I really did have to prioritize self-care over travel, which sucks
Right.
a lot. So I'm just telling everybody out there, sometimes you have to put your health first, and I did. Right now, I just saying because I had to have some health tests and stuff, but everybody is sick, and there's just a lot of stuff going around. The fall was so dry, and the air has been
Yep.
blowing, and we haven't had a hard freeze yet. So a lot of people are sick, and so man, I had to go in for a test at one of the hospitals, but the ER is spilling out the number of people that are sick. We've got some people sick in my office, so I had to work while sick because somebody else was even more sick. If that's we like had a rage like who was the most sick so that the work
Yep.
could get done. So I drew the short straw. So it's just been a really rough season. So I'm grateful that you get to be there and I'm glad you're having a good time, but I'm kind of bummed I didn't get to be there. But today we're going to talk about self-care for the holidays because saying no is one of the big topics we're going to talk about
Yep.
and several others. And this is the talk that Jason and I have done countless times, right? But it's so important. We get into this time of year and everybody wants a piece of us. Everybody has activities to do, places to go, things to see, events to go to, work events, name it, you name it. And everybody feels obligated. And it's just a lot. So, Jason, kick us off. Why is self care so important, especially during this Thanksgiving Christmas season? Why is this so important to talk about?
Well, I mean, I think you kicked it off, right? That sometimes we just got to take care of ourselves. And so, we think about our physical health, our emotional well-being is directly connected to our physical well-being. And so if we're not taking of our care of ourselves physically, then we're not going to be all there for the things we need to do over the holidays. And so,
No.
I've been extra cautious. I know, with you not feeling well, I'm like, well, I got to take extra good care of myself. And so, I've been much more thinking about, and I've been more tired lately too. The time change, we're coming off the time change still, even a couple of months later. It's dark when we leave the
It's
conferences.
so
And
dark. So dark.
it's like I'm like a little less motivated to want to go out and run or do something. And so, I'm
Hmm.
and especially now as I think about my own well-being, I'm much more about, okay, I'm going to be in bed by 10 o'clock. I'm kind of an early riser, but I really take extra time to make sure I get the right amount of sleep, to make sure that I find somewhere for breakfast and eat a healthy, good breakfast to start out the day, right? Like I take a
Yeah.
little extra time for myself. Partly because I know that that's what gives me energy. Like, I enjoy what I do, and I wouldn't enjoy it so much if I was hungry or if I wasn't taking care of
Mm-mm.
myself or I felt extra
No.
tired. That's how I maintain my energy and continue to do this type of work. And so I think, how often do we step back and say, well, wait a minute. I don't want to spend extra 3 hours at work today. I need to set the boundary. I need to step away. I need to say no, right? You're really good at that. You were like, I can't do this one. I need you to pick it
I
up.
didn't
And
want to. I'm just
well, I
telling you
know,
again.
I
I was
know, I
pitching a
know,
fit. I didn't want
I
to,
know,
but
I
it
know,
was the
because
right thing to do. It really
it
was the right
was,
thing to
it
do.
was. And when you can count on your team members
That's right.
to step in, then that makes a huge difference as well, right? And so that's part of why we do this together, right? Is like if
Yeah.
somebody needs to go take care of something else, then someone else can step in and do it. And that's part of, when you're on the same page with your team, when you have a culture where you work together with other people, it just makes everyone's lives better, right? And I think that's the key element as we think about how do we take care of ourselves for the holidays. It does. It
Yeah.
starts with you, right? And so I think as people listen to this episode, thinking about what are you doing for you first, because that has to happen first before you can be there for everyone else. And, we always go to these conferences, we ask who takes time for you, and we ask people to raise their hands. And you know what happens every time we ask that question, Renee,
Not very many.
right?
Not very many. Well, one of the really important things I was reminded of through my illness, because my everything settled in my lungs, and I've got some lung issues from years ago, and I would have actually been hospitalized this time around, but
Right.
more than one doctor reminded me that it's because I have taken care of myself and I am in pretty decent shape as far as cardiovascularly and strength wise. And I was reminding and telling my husband, I'm like, man, as I age, I'm going to have to keep this up because dang, if I would have been as sick as I was, not strong to begin with, easily in the hospital. And more than one doctor, and I don't pay attention to how sick I get, so I don't remember that. But they kept just saying these passive, well, we could put you in the hospital. Well, we could put, and I'm like, dang, what is going on? And so I was that sick, but they're like, but your vitals are too strong. So that just reminds me. So I have another, like, I'm kind of glad to have this. It's like a renewed purpose for wanting to work out
Yeah.
because I've done it for a long time and you don't really feel like, at my age, you don't really see a lot of body transformation and whatever. So you're like, is this really working? But dang, this whole thing just reminded me, man, am I glad that I've started eating well and trying to
Right.
take care of myself and sleeping, because had I not done those things, I could have ended up in the hospital. And that's a rude awakening. So I'm glad I'm on the
Mhm.
healthy side of that because a decade
Yeah.
ago I wasn't and I was hospitalized.
Right.
So I've learned some things. So yay for me for learning things. So there's some data here about self-care and knowing all the things we've just talked about, you would think a lot of people would do this. But like you said, when you ask a crowd at your talks, there's not that many. So we have a couple of things linked for you in the show notes today, but the survey that's out with YouGov.com has some really
Mhm.
great surveys where they ask people, just real people, do you do this or not? Only about a third of people do any kind of self-care on a daily basis,
Right.
and only about 40% of people do something once a week. So that's a lot of people that even though we talk about this over
Yeah.
and over and over, just don't see the value in it. So what do you think about that? What do you think is going on that we don't see the value?
Well, I think sometimes we don't talk about self-care broadly enough.
Mm,
Because self-care looks differently for everybody. It looks
hmm
differently across cultures. It looks differently across genders.
hmm
And sometimes we kind of just box these things in. I remember to a conference I recently went to, and they were really heavy on self-care, but it was only meditation. And I think
Oh,
we meditated in 3 of the 4 sessions we went to of
uh,
different guided meditation. And so meditation is not really my thing, but it was kind of forced upon us as just being the thing that everybody wanted to do at this particular conference. And it's nothing wrong with that. It's just simply sometimes I think we don't allow enough variety and help people
it's a
understand
very
that
good point.
you have to find what's best for you when we think about taking care of yourself.
Yeah. Well, there's new research out that for some people, especially folks that are very active minded, that things like yoga and meditation are actually more harmful
Yeah.
because your head just continues to spin. And I'm one of those people. So I have to do an active type of help. I just have to do something active because I have to do something active enough, long enough so my brain does something else. So
Right.
I've told everybody this before, but one of the reasons I love teaching water aerobics, my brain starts thinking of the lyrics of the hilarious songs. I think it was on the 90s country last time, and it was like Billy Ray Cyrus and
Yeah.
Achy Breaky Heart and all those classics
Wow. I
right?
haven't heard that one for a while.
Right. I know you're jealous. And
I am.
the one about your boots, whose bed has your boots been under, and all these other great tunes.
Oh
Well, when
yeah.
I'm thinking of all those songs, one, my brain remembers every lyric to all of these, which cracks me up. And two, but it doesn't think about anything else because I'm doing motions and I'm showing people what to be doing in the pool. My brain is completely engaged with terrible lyrics of songs that my brain will never remember. I forever, if I'm in a memory care unit, can sing you "Achy Breaky Heart." I can guarantee it. And I don't know why. It's just there. It's just there. So but it's a nice brain break. I mean, I really seriously can't think about things I'm worried about or whatever. So that's just one example, but that's what works for me. If I was sitting in a yoga pose or a meditation, my brain would continue to stress and spin. And so for me, that's not a good fit. So to your point, maybe some of these questions, maybe they didn't understand the questions. That could be part of why
Hmm.
so few do it. But let me just kind of read some of the things that they thought were self-care. And you may think these are silly or not, but most people spent time with family and friends. They thought that was kind of self-care.
Hmm.
We've talked about connecting. That's a good.
Yeah.
But there's reading, eating healthy, exercise,
Yeah.
walking in nature, shopping, taking a relaxing bath, mindfulness, meditation makes it,
Hmm.
journaling, yoga, and it kind of goes on. So a lot of people think it's that there's still that kind of bias towards spa and
Right.
relaxation and all of this. And
Right.
I don't know. That's not the self-care thing for me.
It's that time of year. A lot of times, the friends I talk to and others in the agricultural community, it's time to go deer hunting. It's
Oh,
time to go pheasant hunting, right? Because it's time you get out in
mm,
nature, you're alone. And so I don't see that make a lot of the lists, but I know across the rural
mm-mm.
parts of the country, I have one friend, he comes out, he hunts on my land, and, he sets up deer stands everywhere. He just built this big new one he has
Wow.
back on my property, and he takes a week off of work. He's an engineer.
Mm.
He goes, I just go out to be alone. Right. And it's textbook self-care, but that's never on the list I
No,
read. And I think
no,
that that's
right.
unfortunate because, like you said, I think it really skews how we define self-care as a culture.
Yeah. Well, and the other survey we're going to link to talks really about music, and apparently 90% of people think music is a way to, as a if you do self-care, then music is a big piece of it. And for me, I don't know about you, but I can hear a song, and if I haven't heard
Yeah.
it in a long time, sometimes it'll take me right back to where I was the time I heard
Hmm.
it or whatever. So it sort
Yeah.
of transports you to another time and space. And if I'm listening to stuff in the 90s, I was in college or
Right.
messing around or whatever, and so it's just kind of funny sometimes of like the funny things that pop in my head
Yeah.
that I'm like, I haven't heard that song since, whenever. And so it's one of those things, but you're right. Self-care is kind of hard to kind of think about. But one of the images, Jason, that you know well because of mental health first aid
Oh,
is the self-care snowman. And we
how do we
get a
always
lot of
come
grief
back to
about the
this?
self-care snowman, but it's kind of a good thing. So talk to us about the self-care snowman, Jason. What do you love about
I
that
don't
and why do we use it all the time?
I don't have it in front of me because I can't open the link on my phone. So this
Oh,
is
too
really
bad.
going to be interesting. Too bad. Yeah, thank you so much for helping out. So let's talk about the self-care snowman, Renee. I think I'm totally blanking on the self-care snowman, to
All
be
right, I'll
honest with
help.
you.
All right.
Gee
But
whiz.
it's just funny to me because it talks about not freezing people out.
Right.
Yeah. Breaking out the ice skates.
Activity, being
Right.
active, getting
Yeah.
outside, even when it's
Chilling out.
cold.
Chilling
Right.
out and
Hanging
getting
out,
cozy.
being,
Talks
yep,
about sleep, your favorite topic,
yep,
and being moderate about the merriment and not getting yourself in trouble with
right.
too much partying. So, I mean, if you think of that from the snowman's perspective, sleep is a huge one that you talk about all the time. And we've talked about that. I don't know if we started off this conversation, but several of our conversations, we always talk about sleep. And this time of year, I mean, because it is extra dark and it's extra cold, I
Mhm.
know for me, sleeping extra is not difficult because my body prefers being toasty and cozy and bundled up in the
Well,
covers. And so sometimes in the morning, I'm like,
true.
I don't want to get up.
The thing though I realize is that with sleep, I wake up refreshed. So like there's times now I wake up and I'm like, oh, time to get up. It's
Mm-hmm.
before my alarm goes off. But that's how I know I'm getting enough sleep, right? Is because I've
Mm-hmm.
actually connected with my circadian rhythms and I know that, oh, like I'm refreshed. It's time to get up and I want to get up.
Yep.
I'm not pulling the covers over my head and not wanting to get out of bed. And so I think there's just something to that. And when we see the data of so many Americans who are exhausted every day or can't get out of bed,
Yeah.
or going sleep deprived, about 80% of Americans in many of the studies we've looked at. are sleep deprived day to day. And sometimes if you're working two jobs, you have kids, whatever it is, you can't avoid that, right? But at some point, we have to figure out how to ask for help and how to get support to be able to better manage some of those situations.
Yeah, and we always talk about this, but a lot of folks, if you end up with like a psychiatric break, the first thing they do is
Hmm.
put you to sleep. And
Hmm.
and even I've talked to you about the comedian that does the whole shtick
Yeah,
about going to rehab.
yeah,
But the very first thing they did in that case was put him to sleep. It took a
right.
lot of medication to get him to
Well,
come down to put him to sleep.
right.
But sleep is where you start on the
And,
healing
and
journey and
Right.
recovery.
And even unmedicated, it takes time of sleeping on your own. And so, we've talked to a lot of folks with lived experience. I've worked with a lot of folks with lived experience, and they tell their stories. The first thing I had to do was sleep for 4 days. My body
Hmm.
just needed to shut down and reset. And then I
Hmm.
was ready to move forward. I've heard that multiple times told to me by people. And unfortunately, we live in a culture of get up, get moving, don't be lazy. And so we label folks. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, sometimes we need to take that time for ourselves. And we just don't allow that in our fast-paced culture today.
No, I know in when I'm not feeling well is when I can take a nap because like you, I don't normally sleep with an alarm clock. I'll set it
Mhm.
sometimes if there's something I just need to make sure I just don't miss it, but almost always wake up before it unless I'm not
Mhm.
feeling well. And if I'm not feeling
Mhm.
well and I can sleep during the middle of the day, especially if I fall asleep for an hour, 2 hours, that's a really good indication that my body's not well and it
Mhm.
just needs more of something. So unfortunately, that's part of my decision not to travel was I was
Yeah.
like, I just don't think I should do that because with Brent gone with you,
Mhm.
I have the house to myself, so I can go to bed at 8 o'clock, and
You're
that
welcome.
doesn't.
You're welcome. So
You're
I've
welcome.
helped
Yeah,
you in
thank
your
you.
self-care journey.
Yes, exactly. But it's not like it's a big, I mean, not that he gives me a hard time for going to bed. He
But
doesn't. But it's just easier because there's no expectations. So I was like thinking, should I stay home and sleep because I'm not feeling well, or should I
Mhm.
travel? Travel sounds more fun, I'm telling you. But
Right.
my body was like, no, you really, really should try to, because I need to go back to work. Like we get through the
Mhm.
holidays, going back is a thing. So I'm like, I need to actually feel good here in a couple weeks. So you have to think that through. So one of the last
So,
things I wanted to talk about are the ABCs of self-care. And these are just basic things, and we'll kind of dive into them just briefly. But A is for activities, and we kind of talked about that a little bit earlier.
mhm.
B is boundaries, and C are connections. So when you think of activities, you kicked it off earlier by saying you have to find what works for you, right?
Mhm.
It's not just spa days and
Right.
meditation. It's pick something
And
that
it's
you like to do.
and sometimes it's just getting away for an evening, having a date night, with
Yes.
your spouse or someone around you. You talked about music, right? Like, guess where I'm going tomorrow. I'm going down to Nashville for the weekend. And I'm going to go listen to some great live music because
Mhm.
music is healing. It's just to hear different styles of music, like it is enjoyable. And so it's something that my wife and I like to do. And so that is something that's going to be just a relaxing day, to listen to live
Mhm.
music, to do that, right? And so we're just setting that time aside to be able to do that. And so I think about, it doesn't you don't have to fly somewhere to do that. Just think about, is there a local place that's going to have some Christmas music going on? I think about Christmas carols around the Christmas tree. Those types of activities are healing, and sometimes we don't put ourselves in situations to do that anymore. There's less and less of those types of activities. I think about my Kiwanis club used to sing, and there's been this backlash of
Sure.
younger folks. I don't want to sing. There's actually a Kiwanis songbook, and I think we tried to burn it at one point because I'm not a big singer either. I'll be honest with you, but there was actually some value in doing some of those
Wow,
things.
I
So
didn't know Kiwanians sang. That's an
there's a
interesting
songbook. I should see if
historical
I get my hands on the
perspective.
Kiwanis songbook.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
there's
pretty
a
cool. I like it. Well, the next one we'll talk about B is boundaries. And I know a lot of people think it's boundaries between me and somebody else, and that can be the boundary, but a lot of these boundaries are self boundaries. And one of those is
Mhm.
sleep. We've talked a ton about today about just making sure I have a bedtime and go to bed. But another boundary for me is foods, and just
Mhm.
what I'm eating through the holidays. You don't want to be so strict that you can't enjoy the holiday specials, but are you going to do that and have it's one day is Thanksgiving's a day,
Right.
Christmas is a day. Are you going to do special eating on a day? Are you going to continue that for 6 weeks, right? And it's a
Mhm.
choice and a mindset. You don't have to be still eating Halloween candy at Christmas. I mean, you're
Right.
getting up like Halloween was a while back. So it's like thinking about like what are those boundaries for you? And it's different for different people. right? I don't do a lot of soda. I haven't in a lot of years. I've brought it back in a minimum quantity because I wanted something a little bit different, but it's
Mhm.
not, I still don't drink it like I used to. And so, but I finally can do it in moderation. So I'm like, well, cool. That's fun for me. I didn't used to be able to do that. So it's like, it's a boundary. It's like, okay, I don't really want to eat that, or I don't feel very well.
Mhm.
And for me now, it's like, I want to feel good tomorrow. I want to
Yeah.
wake up feeling okay. So I have to think through that. So I don't know about you. Do you
Well,
have like kind of boundaries that you think about that you're like,
well,
maybe we should do this or don't do that?
yeah, I mean, I think you kind of talked about one is don't overcommit.
Oh yeah.
Don't overschedule. Take time to build in for everything, right? You don't have to do everything in the 2 weeks or the 1 week of a holiday.
Mm.
It's okay to spread things out. It's okay to say no sometimes. It's okay to say, you know what? I just need to slow down for a little while. And so, really thinking about how often are we just so busy running from one family house to another family house to somewhere else instead of let's pace ourselves and that's we don't have to do it all on the holiday itself. Let's spread this out and we can create our own holidays if we need to, because if it's not enjoyable time, it's not quality time.
Mm-mm. That's true. You don't have to, just because Christmas is on a certain day doesn't mean that's when you have to celebrate it,
Right.
and those doldrums we always talk about January through March when it's
Right.
gray and cold, you could put the holiday special in the middle of that for just you and your family or a specific friend that maybe you don't get to see during the holiday and kind of have something to look forward to when it kind of gets those gray days. That's a great idea. Just kind of think about that. The other thing I was just thinking about too with the boundaries and saying no to things is, you're not indispensable. You need to rely on other people at the office and where you
Mhm.
work. If you're not feeling good, you don't have to go. Other people can help. And so making those plans of like making sure that you've got cross-trained people, we talk about this from a workforce environment, making sure other people can help and just back you up. I'm not, I can stay home. I don't have to be there. And if I'm breathing germs that could hurt other people, I don't need to be doing that in an office anyway. And so it's like thinking through some of that. And those are boundaries. It's like, is it more fun to maybe go to the office, or you don't want to miss the office outing or something? But if you're not feeling well, it's pretty selfish to get other people sick. So you just have to think through.
Right.
And the last one's connection, and talk about that for the holiday, but sees its connections, and holidays are a good time to just think about people maybe you haven't connected with in a while. And again, it doesn't mean you have to see them all at the holiday, not
Right.
that, but maybe set up those times for like, for me, January and February get kind of blah. So if I can think of people and be like, I know it's crazy right now, but I'd love to see you and set up lunches into January, into February now,
Mhm.
so I have something to look forward to, and or even a trip.
Right.
Awesome. You always think of your spring break, I'm sure, right now, kind of thinking
Yeah.
of family connection, but you kind of put it out in the future so you have something to
Mhm.
look forward to.
Yeah, and I mean, it takes work to create connection. I think professionally, I've been trying to get together with someone for coffee for 2 months now, and we just keep rescheduling, but we
Mm,
both keep rescheduling, right? Because we both wanna get together. It's just our lives are really busy, and so, sometimes we forget, and I actually have to keep a little note, in my planner of who am I doing coffee with this week, right? Like, I went through a period of my career where it's like, I'm doing a coffee with someone at once a week because
mhm.
it kind of had to force me to get out and create those connections, and I don't do that as much now, just because I'm busy and juggling a lot. But I think, as things slow down, then I get back into that role of like, okay, who haven't I connected with in a long time? Because that's good for my emotional well-being. It's good to create connections. We know the research around isolation. And
Yeah.
sometimes, we really have to do a lot of effort to create connections. That's both professionally and with family, right?
Yep.
And so thinking about what are you doing to push yourself sometimes, because that's the first thing to go sometimes.
Yeah. And it's a really good time of year to be thinking about that because you may be setting new goals for the new year. And
Mm.
one of those goals may be exactly that, right? To whether it's a regular date night with your spouse and getting that on the calendar,
Right.
or it's a regular time to see your grown kids because they're super
Hmm.
busy, or whether it's for professional connections, but you can make those goals that are fun that you look forward to, and then actually, you have kind of, you could, if you're a check mark kind of person like I am, and be like, oh,
Hmm.
cool, I get to call so and so and set up a time for lunch, and that's
Hmm.
part of my goals for the year. And so, making sure connections, because that isolation, especially when you work by yourself and work at home so much,
Right.
right? You could be easily isolated a lot if you don't
Right.
think about taking time to meet people. And I just want to mention while we're talking about connection, we're going to be having more guests of part of our podcast and
Yeah.
making more connections. And so here at upcoming in the next few weeks and even moving forward, we're going to have a lot
Yeah.
more guests scheduled as you're out traveling, meeting new people that you
Right.
think would be cool to add. It's really fun to meet new people. So we're going to have some of those here before the end of December, another new guest and a new connection, a new friend that we can talk about this work
We have
that
a
we
couple
do.
lined up actually, Renee. I know we have at
Yeah.
least two or three coming up,
Yeah,
so that's
it's
gonna be
going to be
exciting.
exciting to kind of have new people, but new connections, right? So it's
Mhm.
another, they're professionals doing kind of the work we do, but we can work together and
Yep.
help each other, spur each other on. So I'm excited to see those upcoming episodes and meet new people because that's part of what this is all about. So today we're talking about the recovering politician self-care policy of the week. And man, this was actually my policy for the week was to say no. Jason, you hit it on the head a while ago because
Mhm.
there's just stuff you can't do everything. And I feel bad about that on some levels because, like I said, I really would love to travel with you and go to Santa Claus, Indiana. I would. And I'd love to see the Christmas lights at Gaylord. I would.
I know.
But do I need to do that and then hack and cough on all of y'all? No, I don't.
No.
Or get
Mhm.
more germs on an airplane? No, I don't. And so I had to say no because you were able to do it. So I could rely on you, rely on Brent to get that work done. I could stay back. Is it my favorite? No, but I'll get over it. But it was okay. And I get to choose to do other things that I get to be home and do that, maybe I couldn't have done if I were gone. And so, you have to be thoughtful about that and say no. I recently took a meal to a new mom who had a new baby. And I think they wanted me to hold the baby, which I would love to do. But again, I haven't been feeling well. Should I
Right.
hold a brand new baby? No, I shouldn't hold a brand new baby. So, it's I think they're gorgeous. I think they're cute, but you really wouldn't want me to get them sick. And
Mhm.
of course they agree, right? But they are kind of like, oh, but you didn't want to hold the baby. And I'm like, but I shouldn't hold the baby. So you
Right.
sometimes have to have that self control. Cause I mean, I love holding new babies. They're
Mhm.
really cute, really tiny, but I don't want to be ill and get other people sick. So, those kinds of things. And you don't have to say yes to everything. I don't know. I sometimes if I'm this will sound crazy, but for a season, I was feeling bad about saying no all the time. So I made myself a list and I would have I think it was five or things I would say no a week and I would just track them because I started feeling better again about check
Mhm.
marks. And I'm like, look, I'm filling up my list. I said no
Yeah.
5 times. No, 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 no. And so it helps my brain just sort of like saying no is a good thing. Saying no is a good thing. Because sometimes you feel bad about saying no, but I'm sorry, I don't really want to see you or go to that office party.
Mhm.
I don't want to. And so don't. So any thoughts on saying no for you? You got anything that you're just any activities your wife wants you to do, you're just like, I just don't want to do that. Or family,
No. No.
you're just gonna say no. You're like, I'm gonna keep that on the DL. It could be a thing, but I'm not gonna tell you what it is. Yeah,
Nope.
nope. So today we're talking about self-care for the holidays. We've got a lot of cool links for you about just the people that do self-care, kind of what those ideas are. So if you're a person out there that's like, I should do more for myself because the anxiety and stress levels are still really high, but I don't know what to do. There's some great links here that have some really great diagrams and pictures of lots of ideas, of things you do. There's also the really cool self-care snowman, which is Jason's favorite. So it's attached. So hopefully we'll see you next time. Have a great holiday week. We'll talk to you soon.